Hey there friends, I thought I absolutely hated building for apes, but it turns out I kinda love it. In this video, you'll get a quick overview of how and why I built the indoor and outdoor habitat for bonobos, and you'll get a boatload of facts about these really fascinating animals. Join me. Hello there, you saw the intro, so let's go. The first step in building the Great Apes section of the zoo was creating this very simple and straightforward triple building structure. These buildings, you'll see there's 3 of them. 2 of them are rather standard, black, white and glass, and the middle one will be taller and will be this, quite basic, rudimentary, but still very colorful building in between them, sort of like resembling a drum. Then the only challenge was to make sure that where these buildings intersect, it looked sort of naturally, and then we're already moving on. I did some research into great ape habitats, both by having visited them in the real world, but also online. And I learned that especially indoors, what they really need is, this deep layer of soil, of soft and varied substrate to walk around on. So we have this concrete with drains, you have cardboard or cork, you have soil. I'll soon be adding, as you can see, straw here. I think I even add leaves. You'll find that in many great apes, or perhaps hopefully as many as possible habitats in the world, especially when it comes to indoor, they need to be able to play and rest and sit and use the ground in several different ways. In the middle of their indoor little habitat, I built this big faux tree, as you can see, surrounded by these stalactites, and that is where a lot of the climbing structure is based around. The idea was for the indoor habitat to be crowded, to be busy, to be, very much a artificial jungle. I didn't go absolutely crazy, in part because my skills aren't there yet, but I was starting to have way more fun with this than I thought I would, and this is really where I was really starting to come around on my opinion about building for apes, something I had postponed doing for a very long time, and I was starting to really have fun. So let me tell you just a little bit about the philosophy behind all of this, and then we'll talk about the bonobo itself. So as I said, the indoor habitat is meant to be a crowded experience, plenty of enrichment. You will see me placing barrels and boxes and hiding spaces. A lot of this was based on things I read online in really learning how to build for these great apes who very often, just like humans, spend a lot of time indoors. We humans spend a lot of time just sitting around, which is what you are doing right now perhaps, and is what I'm doing at this moment. They just sit around. And great apes don't just spend all their day climbing and making sounds. They really tend to chill very often. If you've seen bonobos or great apes in zoos, very often they'll just be chilling, hanging out, and that is why their indoor habitat usually has to stand out, and making sure it is a space where they feel safe, where they can hide, where they can really sort of hide away from the big outdoors. The outdoor habitat, which I will build later, was really meant to be more lush, with a triple layer of grasses, more open space, and then a height difference. All of the climbing in the back is taller and the climbing frames in the front is shorter, so that the guests have an optimal viewing experience. And you will see me getting to that outdoor habitat soon enough. The main draw there for me, honestly, was just the layer of grasses and ferns, making it look like a very lush island. Bonobos aren't really destructive in the sense that they would uproot and destroy all of the plants in their habitat the way I have seen some other monkeys do. And my initial reluctance to build for great apes was starting to melt away at this point. Climbing structures will never be my thing. That is true. But I was starting to get the hang of it, and I'll tell you about that later. Another reason that I didn't really like building for Great Apes. I just didn't like their design much in the game. And I don't always enjoy seeing them in real life. I'm never really very hyped to see Great Apes in closed spaces, in habitats. You know, partially because they are just so human-like that observing them, especially from up close, always makes me sort of uncomfortable, like I'm intruding into the life of a very intelligent being. And I know most of the zoos, or perhaps all of the zoos I've been to, really care for these animals and offer them plenty of enrichment and variation and challenges. I still always get the feeling that they are bored out of their minds. But you know, I think when you would aim a camera at my house and just observe my daily routine, I would spend a lot of time also looking like I was bored out of my mind. So I think they're just very much like us in that sense. The other challenge here was learning how to build climbing frames. I'm not an expert, far from it, but I am improving, and I think the main takeaways for me have been just to follow the flow. Start with some central pole or structure and just attach things to it. Aim them somewhere else into the habitat. Could just be a random direction, you know, in any dimension. Aim that thing somewhere else and create a new fixing point. And then aim it somewhere else again, and just keep connecting things to each other. And eventually you will get to building something more complex, something that looks sort of organically constructed by whoever designed it. And that is what I did. I still am not an expert by far, but you will see throughout this build I am trying to connect things to each other and make it look natural, and just really accepting that I couldn't plan a climbing frame as much as seeing where it took me in the moment. I'm almost putting it like in a philosophical sense, but that really was it, just making sure that it looked like things were supporting each other or were connected to each other, and that there was some weight to it, and just connecting it, aiming it, changing the angle. And that was a lot of fun, and I feel like I'm up to the challenge to build for the chimpanzees and the gorillas next. You will find in almost every zoo with monkeys, but also great apes, is that they do not get access to real trees to climb. Obviously, in the real world, that is the only thing they will climb, is trees. But since they are so smart and so strong, giving them access to the same tree, for a period of years will cause the destruction of that tree. They will snap twigs, they will use it to eat, to play, whatever. So I've seen a couple of examples of animals having access to trees. Very often that is in a very large habitat where they will, have enough distraction not to use, not to destroy the trees. Also, giving them access to trees also means sort of adding unpredictability to where they will be. Trees can grow, trees can break. You don't want trees to fall over barriers. Give them escape points. You don't want to give them access to big branches that they could use to escape, because these animals, it bears repeating, are very, very intelligent, and there's plenty of stories of them escaping out of habitats that by all means they shouldn't have been able to get out of. Also, one thing I added was these baskets, these nests, because bonobos are known to build these nests in the real world. So in zoos you will very often have them be given these baskets, as you can see right here, where they can sleep and play and chill and take care of their little babies. I was also at this point learning to appreciate the bonobo itself in the game. The way they're animated, the way they look in the lighting, and later on you will see the contrast here in the outdoor, the contrast with the very lush triple grass layer that I'm building right here. And I have to tell you guys, it's going to be a habit from now on to build a layer of grass that comprises the buffalo grass, the Yorkshire grass, and the Drin grass. The combination of those three is really, really nice, and it really makes it look like a filled out, lush, environment for them to walk around. And the way the bonobos move around in it, it really makes me excited, and it really looks realistic, and makes me appreciate these animals in the game much more than I thought I would. And, you know, kind of in correlation, I think I've also gained a newfound appreciation for the animal itself, also the real animal. So let's start dropping some actual bonobo facts. These are fascinating animals. They are one of Africa's 3 great apes. As you might know, there is the gorilla, the chimpanzee, and the bonobo. And speaking of the chimpanzee, the bonobo was thought to be a subspecies of chimpanzee until halfway the 20th century, when more research was done. They used to be called pygmy chimpanzees. They are in fact genetically distinct, but also visually distinct from chimpanzees. Usually have longer limbs, pinker lips, a darker face, and longer hair on their heads, usually parted in the middle. They live in the Congo Basin in Central Africa, which is in fact pretty much the habitat for all of the great apes in this tropical Central African region. And the Congo River separates the 2 species of pan, right? The chimpanzee and the bonobo are called panins, I believe, or panins, as they're called. And the river bisects their habitats. To the south, you get the bonobo, to the north, the chimpanzee, and it is theorized that the presence of this river has caused their divergence in terms of evolution. The bonobo dwells mostly in, equally on the ground as in trees, and they are mostly eating fruits as opposed to the more omnivorous diet of many other primates. And they aren't well researched in the wild. They are kind of reclusive, kind of timid, but also there is just a general lack of stability in that region of the world, and it is not always safe for researchers to go and look for them in the wild. That is why most research into the bonobo has been done in captivity. In fact, my local bonobo zoo, if you could call it that, in Plankendaal in Belgium, well known for their bonobo research, and they really, make a good impression there with their bonobo habitat. It is a big one, and that parts of this habitat, just the way that I finally started building it, in fact, was because I visited the bonobo habitat in Plankendaal a couple of times and got the idea that I should finally get to building for them. They are endangered. Their population is somewhere in the 20,000s, I believe, but they are threatened by habitat loss, the general growth of human population, and poaching is the main threat to their existence. Which is a shame, of course, because these are highly intelligent animals. 2 notable individuals stand out, Kanzi and Panbanisha. They were taught to communicate using a keyboard with symbols. Kanzi especially learned more than 500 words and understood around 3,000 of them. Bonobos share around 98.7% of their DNA with humans. So when you look at them, you're truly looking at the closest relatives of humans, and you're also looking kind of at the past of humans, because the last divergence really between humans and the rest of the great apes is where the chimpanzee and the bonobo diverged from our common ancestor. They are the closest thing that you could look at when you want to find out what humans probably looked like and behaved like in the distant past. So that is really a fascinating aspect of this animal, both the bonobo and the chimpanzee. You are really looking at the past of human behavior, and we just took that one step further into our evolution in terms of tool use, in terms of language development, in terms of standing upright. Those are the things that diverged us from them. But really, really fascinating animals and really important animals to understand the history of human evolution. They are often regarded as more peaceful, more social than the chimpanzee, said to be capable of empathy, altruism and compassion, although this idea has been challenged by biologists who stress that very likely their behavior is different in the wild. That being said, even when kept in similar or identical conditions, they still behave very differently when compared to chimpanzees and are just generally more peaceful. Notable for two things: their matriarchy, where it's very much a female-led social group, although males can rise to very important status in the group, sometimes even alongside the leading female figure. And one other behavior about them does really stand out, and it's kind of PG-13, but they have very notable socio-sexual behavior. This is what really makes the bonobo stand out, is they use sex as a greeting. They use sex as a way to bond socially. They use sex as a way to both resolve conflict or to reconcile after conflict. They use sex to celebrate discoveries of new territory or new sources of food. In short, these guys have a lot of sex, and it really doesn't matter to them who they have sex with, age or the gender of the participants really doesn't matter. In fact, almost the only bond that really makes them, stop having sex is when they're talking parents and children. So yeah, really, really interesting behavior there. And so that is going to be it for the bonobo fact. You see me putting in the last bit of work here for the bonobo. I considered for a long time while building it to keep the lower section that you see there closer to the path completely devoid of climbing. I eventually decided to add very small climbing structures there, but still to keep it mostly open, so that they can use that space to bond, to walk around, to have a bit of a relaxing habitat here. And this is something I think I saw Leaf build for the first time, adding these umbrellas to the top of climbing frames. It's something I stole from someone else. And as you can see here, in between the enrichment here in the lower area, I'm building much shorter climbing frames that they could interact with in different ways. Not something for them to sort of climb up to and rest, but perhaps just to have a little climbing adventure, perhaps for the smaller bonobo kids to practice climbing until they get to the more challenging, taller structures. When it comes to the future of this particular part of the park, I can tell you this: the chimpanzee island across from the bonobos will be hopefully a bit more different, a bit more experimental, a bit more monumental. We'll see if I actually manage to pull it off. The interior of the big colorful building, I ask you to forgive me, it won't look very nice, but it will just be a planted area, and then a very big viewing window into the gorilla habitat. And the gorilla habitat is very loosely inspired by the Bronx Zoo 360 gorilla environment. I won't be able to pull it off as well as I've seen other people do, for example White Andrews in the Orwell Zoo, but it's going to be a sort of peek into a grove for the gorillas, and that will be that for the great apes here in BOLLO. And that's it for this build. We are done with the Bonobo Island and indoor habitat here in BOLLO. We will soon be moving on to the chimpanzees and gorillas. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and perhaps subscribe to see more of what's coming in this amazing zoo and all of my wonderful adventures in this game. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.